I got a cat.
Yeah, you did.
A little kitty. Nitro wants to eat it, but he also wants to be its daddy. I don't think he actually wants to eat it. He just wants to pick it up and take it somewhere where we can't get to it. He's like, this is my baby. And I'm like, dude, your paw is bigger than its whole body.
Yeah.
You can't be doing that.
Well, like I said, it doesn't help that it's like the size of what normally one of his like chew toys are too.
Yeah.
So that doesn't help either.
Well, at first he thought it was because we didn't give it to him, but we brought the cat home on his birthday, so he was getting birthday presents because we're white people. That's what we do to dogs. We give them gifts. So he immediately thought, oh, a new toy, and he just went for it.
Yeah.
And Mindy said no and bopped him on the head. He's like, what? And so he's been conflicted. But he's getting better. Today, he was laying on him, and he was playing with it, and he was like, all right, I guess I can't eat this thing, but see what else I could do with it.
And then once it grows up a little bit more and has some size to it, and, if he gets a little too rough, we can bop him on the nose with a claw once or twice, and,
That's straighten him out real quick. So that was the highlight of my week. I gotta build a fireplace here. What about you, sir? Anything worth mentioning?
No.
Nothing.
Nothing going on in my life right now.
I noticed you didn't bring with you any mysterious meats. You said you were going to bring over a big glob of meat for us to try.
Well, I haven't, I've been off, I was off today and yesterday. So, this week, I'll grab some meats for you to try.
Pink meats that we'll throw in the woods.
Yeah.
That'll be a video. We'll do that for Instagram. Taste the pink meats. And
then once you discuss
hard cut to us just launching it against the tree. Or beating it with the bat. I feel like beating it with the bat's good because that's our bread and butter. Beating things with bats.
We get a big chunk of it and throw ninja stars at it.
Mm-hmm. Since this is a writing podcast, here's a writing topic we could talk about for 5 seconds. Why don't we become writing thugs?
Thugs?
Yeah.
Like hooligans or
hooligans, goons. Writing goons. Just go around beating up other writers.
Well, there has been this one... I've had this one idea that I wanted to bring up with you for a while, and I thought we should talk about it off air, but you know what? Screw it. Because we brought up before in past episodes about how there was no more like literature rivalries anymore, no beefs. Wanted to ask you what you thought about having an old school wrestling style just beef between us,
me and you.
Yeah,
every episode we cut promos on each other. Let me tell you something, Spencer. You want to step into the squared circle, you're gonna get smacked down.
Or just be even just try to do the promo, just be like, and another thing about that Caleb James, his pros are puny.
His vocabulary is diminutive, and his structure is awful. Let me tell you about that Spencer Church. He couldn't write a long sentence if it came up and bit him on the ass. I like that. We could do that forever. Mindy will come down here one day, and we'll really just be ripping into each other. But I thought you guys were friends. Oh, man. That would be a good segment. That would be on the next DBS episode. We'll do that for an hour. I think Ash would like to get involved in that, too. I don't know if he'd be down for cutting the promos, but he certainly wants to always yell at other writers. So I like that idea.
Or just start having, fake beefs and stuff and just bring it. Maybe that's how we can get more into, using the social media.
We could start off as partners.
Yeah.
And then do, the Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty flip, where one of us kicks the other one through a window or something. Yeah. But we'll do the SmackDown and become rivals and all that stuff about the writing. That'd be fun. That's a good idea. Murder.
Mayhem.
Blood.
Guts.
Poop. I was going to say guts, and then you said it, so I couldn't think of anything, so I said poop, because that's what comes from guts. Fucking, that's not scary. Is poop ever scary? Sentient turd monster?
If there's blood in it, it's scary.
It's scarier for the evacuator of said poop.
It still brings quite a fright.
I would be very frightened. If you haven't already gathered, you're listening to the most sophisticated podcast on the interwebs there. This is the Drunken Pen Writing Podcast. I'm your host, Caleb James. With me today, Spencer, the Montana Monster Masher Church. That's a good one. Just thought of it.
Monster Masters.
It's my fault because I turned her on to it just as a gag. That's stupid, because every year I try to do the horizontal Monster Mash with her to the Monster Mash.
Yeah.
And my significant other to those listening. And I got like a 99% rejection rating.
Yeah.
I think it worked once. Regardless, I love the Monster Mash. It's the Monster Mash. Well, she's always listening to that stupid WAP song. I don't know if she listens to it ironically or if she actually likes it, but whatever. I found the Monster WAP, which is a mashup of the Monster Mash, and they turned it into that stupid WAP song, so it's the Monster WAP. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
But she likes it better than the original WAP song, so she's always playing that now, and it always gets me, because I'm like, ooh, the Monster Mash. No! And then I fucking got the Monster WAP going on. I'm like, God damn it, you ruined it. Soiled it, you tainted it, you turn something pure, and you turn it into the stuff that has bloody, and it's in the toilet, and Spencer was talking about it earlier. I don't want to say it again.
There wasn't it kind of your fault, though?
It is my fault. That's what makes it so dastardly.
To begin with, you're like,
fucking.
The rooster finally came home to roost.
I don't think that's what the...
Yeah.
That's not the phrase, is it?
Something like that.
The crow? Does it come to roost? My whole life. Flashing before my eyes.
What did you think it did?
I don't know. I did a lot of PCP before I came over.
Oh God, PCP and wood whittling, that doesn't seem like a good idea.
Caleb, you're carving into your hand. Yeah, but look how nice it looks. The bone gives it a nice touch of color. Like, what? That doesn't make sense. The bone's what? Yeah, it's going to be the snow. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Today's episode is going to be much like that last minute of nonsense. I was thinking, I don't know what I'll title this episode as of now, but what sparked this thought, I'm a fan of horror. You like your horror.
Mm-hmm. We also like very different aspects of the horror too.
But here's where I think we both can agree. Sometimes horror goes beyond horror, where it's not scary anymore. It's either just gross or written for shock value.
Or that torture porn stuff whenever you get into like the movies and the shows.
Now, what brought this on was I started reading that consumer book that I told you about, that one that it's out of print because it's so fucked up, because it was on a list of books that are like the most fucked up horror books. It's like, oh, I'll check that out. I forget the name of the author of that, but I read the first story because it's like short stories. And again, not horror at all so far, just really gross. And that made me think of that Chuck Palahniuk book, Haunted, which was like he went around the country and apparently was making people throw up and pass out because of, from the reading. Again, not scary at all, just really gross.
Just think like Squiddy McBoogerball is from South Park, kinda.
You just wrote it to make people vomit. So what would you say?
Well, real quick, when you read that first story of the consumer, what was your, like, other than like, oh, well, this is kind of gross, but did you feel like, oh, I can't read more of this? Or, like, did you ever feel...
It didn't make me want to read more. I mean, I'm going to read more to hopefully the other stories are better, but essentially the first story was about a man who used to have sex with his sister. And then she killed her parents, or their parents, by slitting their throats or something. Goes to the loony bin. Then they let her out, and he picks her up. Or, no, she just gets dropped off at his house or something. And then they just, I think, have more sex, and they lock themselves in the house that's full of, like, rotted meat. And I think she's, like, made of rotted meat, and lots of talk about the insides of each other's guts. I really don't know. It was just really stupid, and sure there's some metaphor there that I was missing, but it was...
Yeah, that's weird.
It was just all about rotted decay, and I don't know. I think the author's French, too, so who knows what the fuck he's talking about, but I just... That was a strike one for me. But again, it just seems like it was written to shock you. Because, what are the most shocking themes? Murder's been done. Even like torture and gore, that's been done. But you know what always works? Incest, pedophilia, animal abuse. Like, there's always like those top things that people throw in. And whenever you see those, almost never is it used in a way that would make, like, actually adds to the story or would really scare you or something. Usually it's done just for shock value or to make you think, oh man, that was such a fucked up story. And then you tell somebody about it, like, you'd spread the story around. I'm trying to think off the top of my head any story that used those themes that was actually a good story.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Normally, the kind of stories that use those things use them in a wrong way, and then just turns off the reader or viewer, and they just stop, consuming the material.
And again, I'm talking about horror, so not something like Lolita or something that might have those themes. Talk about something that's supposed to scare you, and then would have those themes. For me, I like incest. It works if you're talking about some hills have eyes people type of shit. If you're in the Appalachian Mountains and you run, come across a weird fucking family that they're all inbred.
Or like if somebody's being forced against their will or something, and it becomes like the person gets kept in the basement by the abuser and like that kind of scenario where he comes like this monster like
character. A Silence of the Lambs type of deal or something, locked in a well or whatever. Rape is another one. That one is used. I don't want to say used better. But that's one, because that's obviously a more realistic thing. Like, that's something that happens way more often than I would say incest or some of the other, even like animal abuse, like to the degree that it would not just disturb you, but actually scare you. Because how would you rate an animal abuse scene that you would just find scary rather than just like, fucking asshole, like, just get mad. But like, rape can be used in a way that's obviously horrifying. I guess pedophilia can, but I feel like anytime you put that in a story, people are just going to be turned off. They're just going to read that and just like be too disgusted. Rape's a reality, but if it's adults, at least people could they'll be disturbed by it, but they could find the horror in it and almost appreciate what how you handled it if you did it correctly. If you did it correctly. Pedophilia, I feel like that's one of those ones that
however way you cut it, it's not gonna work.
No, I think the only way you'd be able to do it is if you very sparse detail. Didn't actually get into what happened so much as it being not an afterthought, but like
the character, this thing happened to them when they were young, but you don't ever go into like the gross details about. You just know that this character went through that trauma when they were young, and that it's probably gonna have something to deal with the story down the line.
Yeah, like you could write out a rape scene and that could really bring out an emotional response in people, even if they were never sexually assaulted or anything. But a pedophile scene, if you actually wrote that out, I just don't think you could nail it. And, not to be gross. Like, I don't think that's I don't think that's something that you can really do in a proper way. I don't know how. I've never read it anyway.
Yeah.
And then going back to the incest thing, like with the consumer, I don't know what he was going for with that. It's like one of those experimental fiction pieces. So
do you know when that was written?
I think like 94.
Oh, so it's not even that. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's, like I said, what got my interest is the author made sure it was out of print because I don't know if he was ashamed of the work or what, but like other than like and that's more of the inbreeding stuff I feel would be scary versus like the actual just like the act of incest, like cousins, sisters, mom, son, whatever the fuck it is. I just don't see how you could really write that in a scary manner.
Well, and then even too, like you're talking about like the incest with the heroes have eyes or the wrong turn people. They also had some other things that also messed, like radiation or some other thing that also like they're inbred.
They're always like cannibals or something.
They're inbred, but that's not even the most fucked up thing about them. Because there's either that other thing that makes them that either like super big or whatever.
And then, see, I can't say I honestly have read many things that had graphic animal abuse. Like, I've read a lot of stories where horses get killed or maybe somebody shoots a dog or something.
Yeah.
But it's usually, like, something that's, again, sparse detail. If you think about King Arthur for a second.
Do I have to?
Yes, you do. Even though those are, like, kind of fairy tales almost, folklore or whatever, legends, whatever the fuck it is. If you were there when all those horses were getting killed, that'd be horrifying.
Oh, yeah.
Like, because he just talks, like, constantly, people just fucking spearing horses and flipping them and shit. I'm just like, good lord, that'd be awful.
Like Game of Thrones, like, because it's, like, the same kind of, not the same time period, but, has a lot of the same themes and stuff going in it. And, and, like, horses and animals were always getting killed in that thing. I remember in the first season, a guy, like, they killed a horse or whatever, or like some animal, and like, and in the scene, the guys you just see him skinning it,
See, in modern America, in most, I would say, first world countries, animal abuse or just killing animals in general is viewed way different than it was even 100 years ago. Like, you could write a story about killing a dog in 1900, and people are like, well, it's just a dog.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's like, that's like a family member. You wouldn't fucking...
They would rather, other than, like, unless if the character is a kid or, like, a baby, you could kill anybody else in your story, and they probably, you know, the readers wouldn't give a shit. But you harm that fucking dog or that cat.
Now, here's a way, if you want to bring out some fucking cheap tears, like, you want to get an emotional response real quick. I would say this is more of a hacky writer situation. The old, who you gonna save? The dog or the baby?
Yeah.
You do that, and maybe even make it so the dog saved the baby initially, and then, like, you know, car's coming down and it's gonna hit one of them. Those are always a good way to just fucking piss everybody off.
Funny you say hacky writing with that scenario. Now, I don't ever watch the show, but it's that, like that, what is it? This Is Us or whatever. It's one of those shows. It's just the only purpose is to make you cry. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So, and I think the one character who what's his name? The guy who played Rocky's kid, and he was in Heroes and all that stuff, and he was in there, and like he died one thing because the house was on fire, and like he got everybody else, and they're like, oh, where's the dog? And he goes back to save the dog, and he dies trying to save the dog. So like again, like just that's hacky writing.
Yeah, I hate it.
That whole, like I said, I never watched a minute of that show, but just from the trailer, I could just see like that was just terrible. Like, and why would anybody want to watch that? To just purposely cry? Like,
I don't know. People can't express their emotions sometimes, so they just need a outside stimulant to make them weep. Weep. That's what they want to do, is weep. When's the last time you wept? I don't know. I haven't had feelings in a long time. Other than anger and rage and fury and sexual arousal. I don't have too many feelings. Hunger, is that a feeling? I'm always hungry.
Like all the negative ones. I've had none of the positive feelings for quite a while.
You know what? There is one story about a dog. It was on that Missing Fairy Tales. I don't know if you got to this one yet. This one I can see, because I was actually thinking about doing a modern version of this, because it would make everybody cry. It was about like I'm just for intents and purposes here, I'm just going to say a hunter. I don't remember if he was like a prince or something. He's living in a cabin, and I think his wife died giving childbirth, so he has a baby, and he has his faithful wolf. Like, you know, pretty much a loyal dog, but I guess back then they were just wolves that were loyal. And he had this wolf his whole life. And then one night, like, I think they were starving or something, so he had to go out and hunt, and he left the wolf. It was like, hey, you got to watch this baby. You know.
I remember this one.
Yeah, and then when he comes back, the door's open. He's like, oh, fuck, what is this? And he goes in and just sees blood everywhere. And the wolf's sitting there all happy looking.
Like in the crib. It's like sitting in the crib.
Yeah, all happy looking, just covered in blood. And he's like, oh my God, the wolf ate my baby. And like, again, this is his loyal pet. Like, this is his best friend.
And he even like had like, it wasn't like he immediately killed the dog. Like, he was having a hard time even doing that.
Yeah, he was really struggling with it, as you would. But he ends up fucking killing the dog. And it describes as he's like killing the dog doesn't fight back. It's just like, I did something good. Why is my best friend hurting me?
Just like, why? What's going on?
It's like, oh God. And then after the wolf dies, he hears something. He looks over and he sees his baby is on the floor, like hidden away, and it's fine. And next to it's like a big dead snake or something. It's like the wolf killed the thing that was trying to kill the baby. And you're like, oh no, he killed the wolf. So that would be a good way. If you're going to do animal abuse, that would be super emotional, but not, in my opinion, hacky.
You know, probably the only people that ever did the animal abuse right, at least recently, John Wick.
Yeah.
There'd be no movies without it.
No. Again, though, sparse on the details. You didn't see him just fucking hammering the dog or something. Yeah. Also, though, cheap way to get you, the reader, to sympathize with the character. Just kill the dog right at the beginning. Have some bad guy kill the dog, and you're like, fuck! Or, you know, wife, kid, anything that the reader can relate to, because they would also hold dear in their life, so that, you know, their wife, their kid especially, or the dog, you kill it, have some jerk fucking come up, shoot it, or drunk driver is a good one. I remember, like, Rescue Me, the kid gets killed by the drunk driver, and you're just like, oh, it just kills you inside. Going back around to the
actual topic,
which I don't even remember what it was, but horror, when you cross that line to just either gross out or just beyond horror, when it's not scary anymore, what are some other no-nos you would say? Like, we covered some of the taboo subjects, and again, taboo subjects can be done well. It's just oftentimes you'd have to be kind of a master writer, I would say, to utilize them properly.
I don't know. I think like the incest and the rape are like the big.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I guess like the obscene amount of violence.
You know what? You know what'll kill your story now that wouldn't in the older 70s and before? Overt racism.
Yeah.
In your story, because it used to be in movies and TV shows. You wanted to, even closer to modern times, if you want to, even like I was watching The Longest Yard, and they had Steve Austin being racist for no reason.
Yeah.
It's like it's cheap, as in wrestling terms, because we were talking about that earlier. That's cheap heat.
Yeah.
You bring on, you go to the. You're in Dallas. Oh, the Cowboys suck.
Yeah.
That's cheap heat. You're getting that. It's not character development there. So if you want the reader to immediately hate a bad guy, just make him overtly racist, dropping a lot of N-bombs and stuff. But now, I feel like people don't care about the that cheap heat, because readers are more invested in the author now. So if you write that, they might think that you, as the author, either think that, or, you're writing it down, so, that's in your mind, at least. So they will, whereas it used to be they would separate the characters from the author, and they would just, that character's awful. Now they might think the author is also awful. Unless
if you have to have something, terrible happen to that character by the end of the story.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you don't, if that character makes it out scot-free, and no harm, done to him, then I could definitely see the...
Look is going across the room.
Yeah. I could definitely see, readers and, fans being mad at that kind of stuff. See, but I think, though, sometimes you have to, if you were writing this story about, this black couple traveling through the South, and they get pulled over by, a bad, so then that police guy might have to be, this really, racist. But again, that kind of goes into the author's, writing style
and how you do it.
And their skill set, because you could just have the cop just calling them the N-word every other word, or you could have
make it more subtle.
Yeah, make it more subtle of how he just talks to them, or maybe never actually looks at them or makes eye contact, that kind of stuff.
Just be you don't look like you live in this neighborhood, small things
or
that.
You don't look like you belong here, around here.
It's a pretty nice car you got there.
How'd you afford that? Who'd you steal that from?
Yeah, one of them things. See, here's the thing, though. I think, and if you hit it that way, it would be okay. But if you just, I don't feel like you can't just be throwing the N-word in your stories anymore.
It's rough.
No matter, even if it's unless it's a slave story or something set back in the 1800s, I just don't see it working, because I see too many PC readers now would be not just turned off from that, but as soon as they hit that, they're just I don't want to read about. I don't want this anymore.
I know it hasn't been in. I haven't seen it in really anything of new as his, but I know Stephen King, he wouldn't shy away from that, because there was one of the characters in the Dark Tower is this black lady, and she gets pulled from I think it's the 50s or 60s, I think. She gets plucked from that time, and then so they deal with that kind of stuff, and just even throughout and they just go through her history of people calling her that and worse things, you know what I mean?
He's always had racist characters in his story.
Yeah,
usually they're always the bad guy, but.
Oh yeah, but that's what I'm saying. He's I don't know. I'm still not caught up on all of his newer stuff. I haven't seen him in a while. But I'm just saying, he wouldn't overdo it, but
you'd still have it in there.
Yeah,
I feel like this is probably a topic for another episode. But I noticed Netflix now will tell you before you start watching may contain scenes of suicide or racism or whatever. They give a trigger warning. Do you think books? I don't know. I don't read too many modern books, so I can't say if they have those in some modern books. Would you see that as a thing that might happen if it's not at least become more popular?
I mean,
have trigger warnings in the books.
I don't know about trigger warnings, but I could see them doing maybe a how kind of games and comics have a
rating system.
Yeah, a rating system. Now that sucks, because there's always the stories about, you reading those stories you shouldn't be reading at 6, 7 years old. But that doesn't say that it still doesn't happen. But I could maybe see something like that being intimated into certain things, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Which probably wouldn't be a bad idea, honestly.
I was always surprised that they never had a rating system for books. It's just adult, young adult, and just genres. Maybe just because people don't read enough.
Yeah,
that's probably the reason. Because comics, don't they have a rating system?
Yeah, they have like
they mature and
and then they have like teen plus, like, you know what I mean? Just, if it's, a couple curse words to the, mostly just violence or that, that kind of stuff.
I'm turning back to the horror stuff. Like the horror comics we've read, I feel like most of them do the good job of doing what I feel a horror novel should do, which is actually, try to make it scary but not go over the top. And it's actually easier to go over the top in comics because, you have visual, so you could see all the gore. I feel like most, even like Nailbiter and stuff, while it would be gory, it wasn't over the top with it. Like, it didn't just, like some of, like, Clive Barker type of stuff might take you out. You're like, okay, well, dude, what the fuck is this? Like, this is too... Now, Clive Barker, like Hellraiser, like, the first book, it wasn't over the top. It was just at the right level where it was still scary, but gross.
Yeah.
But his Books of Blood, like the first one, there was some stories in there where it's like, okay, now this is starting to get into Chuck Palahniuk fucking parody, corny bullshit. Yeah. Like, it's just... Okay, why did Chuck Palahniuk think that book would be... What the fuck did he write that for? It had to be for shock value, right? You didn't read it yet, but when you do, it's not portrayed as something that would even be able to happen in like a lot of the stories because they're just so gross and out there. Like a guy gets his butthole stuck to the thing at the bottom of a pool because he's doing some sex thing or something, and it sucks his intestines out. It's like, but it's like so great. He even describes like the guy's morning vitamin in the lining of the intestine and stuff. It's like, dude, why is that necessary?
Oh, well, I think he talked about that on that Rogan podcast he was on, and I think it was just literally just to try to get a reaction out of people, which is weird because, like, you read any of his other stuff and it's not written that way. It's, they're written pretty well, the couple of things, the couple of his books that I've read.
Yeah, I never really understood.
Maybe it's just like a weird thing he wanted to try one time to get out of his system.
I feel like a lot of authors go through kind of an experimental phase where they do either a shock value or just really out there prose that even like a Faulkner had that with like The Sound and the Fury, just like fucking stream of consciousness and all kinds of weird themes and stuff.
Well, because isn't that the only thing? That'd be the only thing I know of Chuck Palahniuk to write that would be like a horror.
Yeah.
Kind of. So maybe that's what he thought like his idea of horror is.
I guess.
So.
Gross. As much as I love horror, I actually haven't read a lot of horror novels that are like that really push the lines, in my opinion. Like I said, the Books of Blood, those they were definitely teetering on the edge because Clive Barker he likes to do that. Like that's where his bread and butter is being almost overtly gross, but he always pulled it back. At least in those books. Stephen King, I never felt like he went over the top. If anything, he probably could do more sometimes.
Yeah. Like
when it comes to the gross details or just gore and anything like that the reader might like. Did we read any horror stories? Besides, we read Dracula, but I don't think we covered any modern horror novels on the podcast. Other than like some zombie.
Yeah, other than like, some like indie authors, that we know.
We'll touch on that some other time.
Well, I mean, you read Frankenstein, your favorite novel of all time.
Yeah, that was horrible. I mean, that was horrible. Shut up. I don't talk about it.
Are you scarred? Is that you're like, we don't talk about the time like Caleb read Frankenstein. Oh, what about if you had to do an hour-long episode on either Frankenstein or Moby Dick, and it had to be positive?
Moby Dick.
Because you like the little bit more of that than you like.
I like the first half of Moby Dick. I just didn't like all the whaling stuff. If there's a abridged version that just got rid of the whaling stuff, I think it would be a good story. Frankenstein, I think it would be 10 pages long if you got rid of all the Frankenstein or Dr. Frankenstein fainting and being ill and fucking the monster just whining and whining. Ooh, I'm ugly and nobody likes me. Well, nobody told you to go fucking live in the woods, you weirdo. Go live in a city. And they'll just be like, oh, he's slightly deformed. Go fucking live in a church and be a hunchback or something. The Hunchback of Notre Dame, like that guy, he's sitting there ringing bells going, ooh, he's all deaf and shit. He has a life, then why can't the fucking Frankenstein?
Does he though?
Yeah, didn't he get to mate with that sexy lady?
Did they ever,
in the Disney version?
But I mean, does he ever actually get, like, you know what I mean? They probably murder him before he gets a chance, I would say.
Yeah, but he rings those bells so good. Who else is going to ring those bells like that?
Because doesn't he get, like, stabbed in the hump?
Yeah, he did get stabbed in the hump.
That would have to hurt.
Maybe. What if it's all muscle? I mean, it still hurt, but look, I don't know. I don't really remember. I didn't read that. We should read that sometime. The actual story. Hopefully, it's on that Myth and Legends podcast.
Yeah.
Like the original Hunchback of Notre Dame. Because it just sounds gross. I want to read Phantom of the Opera too sometime, but that's a fucking big.
Really?
Yeah, it's like gothic horror. The guy's got a gross face. You don't like books about guys with gross faces?
But does he even have a gross face at the end? I thought that was the thing at the end. Like, his face isn't even actually messed up.
You just ruined Phantom of the Opera for me?
I don't know.
I was never really into Phantom of the Opera, so like anytime there's a movie or something, I barely watched. I saw the gross half of his face, and then just like, I'm not watching this anymore. I don't care. There's a Mel Gibson movie about that too, where he had a gross half of the face.
Oh yeah, he like lived out on a lake or something.
I was like, oh no, a super handsome young Mel Gibson. His half of face is slightly grosser looking. It wasn't even that bad. It was just wrinkly, like
it was slightly burned.
Oh fucking A. Anyway, folks, if you have anything you wanted to add on the topic of horror taboos and what kind of makes a story go from horror to just fucking ridiculous, like the Chuck Palahniuk's Haunted or whatever, let us know. You can go to drunkenpenwriting.com. We have a contact form there. You can
read. You want to talk about the books, like the horror at the bookstores?
Horrors at the bookstores?
Horror at the
bookstores. If you go to the bookstore and you see some horrors,
let us know.
The horrors at the
the
horror section.
Yeah, we're just not gonna.
Go ahead, you can riff about that.
Well, no, I just didn't know if I wasn't sure how long we were going for. I didn't know.
I don't know.
Folks, we don't have to talk about it.
Folks,
we can cut all that out.
Reach out on Twitter at Drunk Pen Writing or Instagram and Facebook at Drunken Pen Writing. If you want horrors at the bookstore,
I think it would help them out.
Like
say you had to at least get one book for every horror that you buy.
You buy a horror at the book, or you get a horror for every book you buy.
Well, you can go in.
Either way, you're getting more readers.
Yeah.
I promise you, folks, we're not this misogynistic.
Well, there'll be male hookers there for the ladies as well.
Well, that's what I was saying. You got to have. Yeah. It's got to be equal. I was trying to think of a way to say it without calling them male hookers.
Well, no, they're male hookers.
Gigolos. That's the word I was thinking of. I don't know. Gigolo, I feel like is too high class. We want a male whore, right? I don't know what the fuck we're talking about anymore. Yeah, but the horror section. Any bookstore I go to anymore, the horror section is mainly just like a Stephen King section. Yeah, honestly. Anything else we want to talk about?
No, that's what I just wasn't.
Just horrors at the bookstore?
Horrors at the bookstore.
Oh, man. You know what else is horrible?
What's that?
Just because I was watching South Park yesterday, Harley Riders. You know, guys that ride Harleys.
Oh, yeah.
Just fucking. So that brings today's question, Spencer.
Okay.
Because I feel like in another life you would have been a Harley rider.
Oh, really?
Long flowing mullet.
Maybe. Handlebar mustache.
Lots of leather.
All chaps.
So my question, Spencer, if you owned a Harley.
Okay.
This is very important. I want you to think deeply on this.
All right, yes.
Do you want to ride a loud-ass Harley through the suburbs and piss off all the irritable soccer moms? Surge! Rev that shit.
Yes, I would.
I forgot all about that, so I just had a ham-fisted in there. I'm already hating Surge bits. Nitro's passed out over in the corner. Too much action with the kitten. Surge. This would be like episode 30. And it's like, do you want to milk a goat on the back alley in Istanbul? Surge. Lactate that goat. Like, it'd be so sad. Like, we have to do. Nobody's making us do this. I could stop at any time, but I feel like I can't now. Here's the question: do I do that on the Storycast episodes when I start going back to reading stories?
Maybe, and just trying to fit it in there too somewhere.
And then Deborah looked Mark in the eye. And she thrust the blade deep into his abdomen and twisted. And with a screech, she said, "Do you want a milk plate?" I feel bad for whoever story that was I was reading. Just destroy it. Oh, we can't. Since we started Surge, any chance of like
seriousness?
Yeah, any seriousness. Because we never, no matter what, we can't have a serious episode now. Like when we do the fucking episode with you read this guy, so I gotta do the Surge bit. It's gonna be embarrassing. It's gonna be like when you become known as that guy who does something, and then everybody like, "Oh, hey Spencer, come here, man! You gotta do your Arnold impression. Yeah. You're gonna love this. It's so good, dude. Go do it, dancing monkey. Do your fucking Arnold impression. Get to do the job. He does it better. I swear he does. Do it right, Spencer. You don't even do it right.
You don't even want to do it anymore.
Yeah. You do it one time and people like it, and then that's just your fucking deal. It's either that, or you're even more sad where you're the guy that's just like, won't stop.
Yeah. Who wants to hear my own bit?
Hey, I got a joke from fucking, I've been doing since the 80s, it's funny. Get you to the chopper.
Who wants to hear my funny Surge quips? Anybody? Come on.
I got a million of them. Surge, that drink from the 90s that nobody fucking buys.
It came back for a few years.
I almost took a picture yesterday. I was at a convenience store and they had one.
Yeah.
And in the cooler. I actually almost bought it, but I don't want to because I feel like I will get addicted to Surge. And then the bits will get much better, but the rest of the podcast it'll sink. It'll be done. We'll go out of business and nobody will pay us any more money to do this. Is anybody paying us money?
I don't know. You're not giving me any money, so I assume no.
What would you do if you found out that all this stuff
was just coming, like the house came from the podcast?
Paid off the house immediately because it's just podcast money. Just making it rain. I never told you. Here, Spencer, got you another fucking book. Oh, thanks, Caleb. And you walk over, you actually stumble over somebody. Is that a sack of money? Don't worry about that sack of money. Oh, man. Who texted me? Oh, boy.
What's up?
Oh, boy.
What?
Talk about it off air.
Oh, God.
Thank you, folks, for listening. We appreciate your ears.